My name is Kirby Mayer. I am a physical therapist and I would say a clinician scientist. I have a PhD in muscle biology. I'm at the University of Kentucky and I primarily work with patients who are in the ICU or who have survived an ICU stay. I knew from a pretty early age that I wanted to do physical therapy. I think in my teen years, I had a sports injury, and I think you hear that from a lot of physical therapists that they had a sports injury and sort of saw the profession. But shortly after my injury, my grandmother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and she had a physical therapist, and that sort of solidified, wow, we can be a PT. Research has been a circuitous kind of pathway. Never thought that I was going to do research. I think I've always been inquisitive, and I think that lends to the research mindset. But early on, as a PT student, in my first year sitting in class, I thought I was going to be the classic sports physical therapist working with throwing athletes. But different experiences both in PT school and during my clinical rotations really opened my eyes. I went and worked in an ICU, and after that, the ICU stay kind of opened my eyes about there's still a lot of questions that we have about what kind of therapy, what kind of treatments we are providing our patients. And I was asking questions just like a normal clinician, but asking questions about why our patients not getting better? What can we do better as therapists? And that led to connections to some scientists and different individuals, and that's sort of what landed me in a PhD program to sort of explore. Currently, we study ICU survivorship. We call it post-intensive care syndrome in PICS for short. And PICS was really the term was really developed only about 10 years ago. So it's a relatively new area of science and medicine. We know that ICU survivors are plagued with ongoing medical, social, physical, emotional deficits, impairment symptoms that last for years after an ICU stay. But we don't really have an understanding of why and who is at risk for those impairments. So my research really focusing on trying to have a better assessment approach so that we can provide better treatments to ICU survivors. We look at long-term outcomes, 5 years after an ICU stay, trying to truly optimize quality of life and physical function and patient outcomes. Our research is really translational. Everything that we're doing is clinically based. We do, some very cellular and molecular experiments, but our main focus is patient outcomes. So every day, every hypothesis or every experiment that we're developing is tied back into clinical practice. We're looking at things like how often do patients who survive an ICU get rehab, and are they being referred? Are they participating? And if they do participate, what are the outcomes? Can we improve those outcomes? The foundation was really instrumental in my development. With the pods, I think what it did was it set the sort of the platform to how do you write a grant? How do you set up a grant? And provided an initial funding that allowed me to focus on my training, my science. Honestly, it's hard, especially with reduced funding, and PhD students don't always get support financially. So these offered lots and lots of support. And it has led to other grants. So I'm NIH funded now, and I think partially because of the pods. The acute care grant really allows us to do additional research into the same things that we're already doing. And this was a multi-site collaboration with a team at Duke and a team at Florida Atlantic. What we really wanted to understand is after an ICU stay, who is sort of at risk for cardiopulmonary insults, and understanding who, but also how do we assess it. So the foundation grant is actually helping us develop an assessment tool that can be used clinically to better understand sort of this cardiopulmonary insult after an ICU stay. Really, that came about from conversations with mentors and collaborators and a team that was really committed to this work. I took the lead on it because I think it was something that's important to our own team and our own patients. And I think that just the nature of what we're studying, that this can have a big impact on immediate changes in clinical practice. We're hoping to create a clinical outcome or a clinical algorithm that can better diagnose patients at risk of cardiopulmonary deficits. It's a lot of learning, a lot of new, a lot of where to go, what to do. And I think there's probably not always a right answer. So each day I'm learning something new, lots of what is next. And that's exciting, but also challenging. We're moving so fast with our team and our research, but I think, personally, and we would like to see that we've had an impact on quality of life for ICU survivors that we've offered something, whether it's simple things like observational studies or a large randomized control trial where we have shown that there is something effective that can improve the lives of patients. I think part of that is our team growing, our research growing, collaborating with more people, really focusing on patient-centered outcomes. I think, if they're already aspiring, they're already doing the right thing by asking questions and thinking about it. And I think what I would advise or think back is even before aspiring to do research, if you're asking questions in the clinic or in the hospital, and they are about your outcomes or they are about quality of life, you're already a researcher. It's just that taking that leap to say, yeah, I want to do this. It's really, really, really important in our field with improving our outcomes, improving our treatments, but also, our faculty and our scientific community are aging and retiring, and we need that next group of scientists. We need the next person that's going to discover something that's going to push the field forward. So if you're already aspiring, ask questions. There are different domains of questions. There's probably some that are, financial and personal, and what are the benefits of a PhD as far as some of the social things that we all need to consider in our life. And then the questions that are more scientific would be, where are the programs? Where are the grants that can help me do this? And then the last domain would probably be starting to formulate research questions. So is it meaningful? Will it have an impact on practice? Will it help with cost effectiveness or feasibility? I think in our profession, what you'll see is if you reach out to someone, a researcher, they're going to be pretty receptive to point you in the right direction, but you have to ask the question first. Research provides a spectrum of information, support, advocacy. There's so much that research can do for our profession. If we can show that our rehabilitation treatments are more effective than a different treatment, we can advocate at a national and a federal policy level that we need more reimbursement, we need more support. But then also, research at the basic science level, which is some of the things that we do in my lab, discovery of a new protein, a new mechanism. Right now, we're really focused on the mitochondria in my lab. Discovering things that can lead to new treatments have a major impact on not only our patients' life, but how, as PTs, we should be providing treatment. One of the big things that you sort of hear right now, or there's a buzz around this targeted or personalized medicine. Well, rehab and exercise should also be individualized. We should be thinking about providing the best care to each individual patient. That's how research can have a bigger impact.